Yes, we are back on. Murli sir, you can try to share now. In the meanwhile, I'll finish my introduction of yours, which got stopped. So he is an alumni of Loyola College.
You'll have to allow me to share my screen.
Okay, I'll make you the host now, sir. Yeah. All the participants have been muted also. So I think Murli sir will take over the session. A person of intense knowledge in indirect taxes areas. He is also a expert committee member of Hindustan Chamber of Commerce. He was the past president of the Association of Chartered Accountants, as well as the past president of the International Chamber of Indirect Tax Professionals. I now request CA J. Murli sir to take us through the registration aspects of GST. Sir, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Shankar Narayanan. I thank for the opportunity given to me. And it is very interesting to see the registration per se, because the registration is the entry point for all the GST work. So whenever you have a proper entry, then you can go ahead and you can very well do your work. So the registration is very important topic. We will go one by one. Swati? Hello? Am I audible now? Hello, am I audible? No, slide show. The GST scenario will have a very interesting entry. You can enter, but you will have to come out, which is very difficult. So that the procedure of registration and cancellation will be discussed in our session. The very wonderful thing here is, whenever you get yourself registered under GST, you will have to file the return every month. If you are not filing the return for the law at least for 3 months, then the officer can cancel your registration. So therefore, it is always better file and comply with the provisions of the Act in time. In our session, we are going to see the sections 22, person liable for registration, 23, person not liable for registration, 24 compulsory registration in certain cases, 25 procedure for registration, 26 deemed registration, 27 casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person, amendments to registration and cancellation to registration, revocation of cancellation of registration will be section 30. We will go one by one. Initially, I will go through all the 29 forms. I will explain the forms one by one. Then after that, we will go to the website. That is, I have taken the snapshot from the website. I will explain one by one how you will have to go in for registration and what are all the procedures you will have to follow for getting the registration from the GST department. So the normal registration will be number one, migration. Those who were assessees in the S2L VAT Act, Service Tax, then Central Excise Act are given their number under GST. On 1/7/2017, all those who are assessees under the S2L Act were all given the registration under the new Act. Then there is a threshold limit. Originally, it was 20 lakhs for goods and 10 lakhs for services. Now it has been increased for to 40 lakhs for goods and 20 lakhs for services. But in the northeastern states which were underdeveloped, they have still the limit of 20 lakhs and 10 lakhs. So it is better whenever you cross the turnover limit, you will have to register yourself, because when you are crossing 80% of the threshold limit, if you register, whatever stock you have on that particular date, you can avail the input tax credit, then you can proceed further. Then voluntary registration. This is very important. When I start my business, I will have to get myself registered immediately. Whenever I get myself registered immediately, the advantage which I will get is the taxes paid on my purchases of goods and input services are charger whenever I am getting myself registered voluntarily before crossing the threshold limit, whatever taxes I have paid on my threshold limit or on the basic of whatever purchases I made in furtherance of business, I can get my input tax credit. Wonderful definition. I will give you hypothetical and practical example what happened in my office. So when the GST was about to be introduced, what I have done is I have modernized my office with a lot of computers and other things, expecting more work to come. But at the same time, what happened? I have purchased the tube lights from an electrical shop and asked him to supply whatever the electrician asked. Then I have given my GST number so that the input will come directly to my account. So it is actually what happened. We have got one tube light. So that tube light I want to purchase from the local market. What I did, I asked my staff to get the tube light in the from the same shop. But what my staff said did is, he went to a next shop where they said they will not give bill. My staff was under the impression when there is no bill, the rate will be less. So what he said, I have got the tube light set for 400 rupees plus taxes. So, but my staff, when he went to the shop where the bill was not given, he got the tube light 400 plus the taxes plus 10%. They have collected a 10% margin on the taxes also. So he got me one tube light with 475 rupees without any input tax credit. That is very clear. Whenever you want to be in under GST, you will have to comply properly. If you are not complying properly, then you may lose very important aspects of the GST. Then the other thing is, whenever the officer feels that you have crossed your turnover, he can ask you to register. he can ask you to register whenever you have crossed the turnover. When you are filing the return called GSTR1, you will be giving one detail. When you are effecting sale to a unregistered dealer in interstate transaction, then you will give the details of what you have sold to that person every month bill wise. When you are giving bill wise, what happens? The effect of that will be accounted for in the server. Say for example, you are all selling to J Murali, and you are, I assume that I am in a different state, you are in different state. I am in Pondicherry, you are all in Tamil Nadu. Whenever you bill me, you give the details in the GSTR1. It is accumulated in the server. Based on the server, the officer will come and visit my office. Then he will find out that I have commenced business and I have crossed the threshold limit. I have not registered. Then that case, he will ask me to register immediately. So at times the officer may also give registration whenever there is a requirement. When he gives the registration certificate, I will have to file all other documents which we are going to see now. The GST number will be like this. The first two digits will be the state code. For Tamil Nadu, the state code is 33. I am in Tamil Nadu, so my PAN number I have given. Then the first two digits will be 33, followed by my PAN number with 11 digits, and 12 and 13 digits will be verticals. Verticals means the branches which I have in the same PAN number, it will be recorded there. Then the last digit will be check digit. The check digit will be in the machine language to identify that I am using the PAN number, that is GSTN number or not. So it is very interesting. If you go and get a number in the Pondicherry state, your number will be 35, followed by your PAN number, then your two verticals, then the check digit. So interestingly, they have arranged to link the PAN number with the indirect taxes. Originally, under the sales tax or VAT, the linking was not there. Whatever you turnover you declare in income tax may not be correlated in the VAT. But the service tax entries will be correlated because the service tax number is based on your PAN number, and the central excise number was also based on the PAN number. But now, even for the trader, whatever transaction they effect, they can get their input tax credit because of the linking with the PAN number. And interestingly, you cannot have more than one set of books now. Whatever you report in GST will be correlated in the income tax and other bank records. So it is very interesting. They cannot have more than one set of books. When I started my practice, whenever I ask them to bring records for assessment, they will immediately ask which record you want. You want income tax record or sales tax record or bank record. Everything will be different. It will not be correlated. Now you cannot do so because your that is the chartered accountant or cost accountant will prepare balance sheet once in a year, but your assessing authority can prepare your balance sheet every month. So therefore, it is very, very interesting that no more than one set of books can be maintained. This is wonderful explanations given. Say for example, a transferor want to sell the unit. Say for example, I have my firm name J Murali & Co. I want to sell the J Murali & Co. as a going concern to Mr. X. What is called as going concern is they will take all the liabilities and assets of my firm and they will take up the entire business as a whole. And for that, they will enter into a memorandum of understanding with me, based on the memorandum of understanding, they will give some consideration what is decided between me and them. So this is the case. In this case, if for example I have input tax credit of 1 lakh, when a business is taken over, J. Murali & Co is taken over by Mr. X, Mr. X can take the available input tax credit into his account. And same scenario is for amalgamation demerger arrangement. Amalgamation, what is amalgamation? When two or more units join together and form a new unit, whatever input available in the erstwhile two or more units will be carried over in the new unit. Absorption is that is X company taking over X firm. In this case, whatever X firm is having as an input tax credit in the credit ledger will be transferred to the X and Co. So in this case, what will happen? They will have to file one return called ITC02. That return, when if it is crossing 2 lakhs or more, it should be duly attested by a chartered accountant or by a cost accountant, where the return should be uploaded by both the firms. When the firms are uploading the details, the interesting scenario is whatever input tax the available is will be transferred to the new unit. And it is the same scenario for amalgamation and demerger arrangements. If the aggregate turnover exceeds 20 lakhs, liability to register will come. Now it has been increased to 40 lakhs for goods, then 10 lakhs for special category. For the northeastern states, they have still for services they have 10 lakhs limit. For the goods they have 20 lakhs limit. Wonderful definition here is Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland and Tripura. They all have a lesser amount. Why? From the day of independence till 1/7/2017, our acts are based on the manufacturer. So the manufacturer will levy tax, and the state in which it is manufactured will get the entire tax from them. But now after the 1/7/2017, the act has taken a U-turn. The consumption state will get more revenue than the manufacturing state. I will give you with a simple example. If you are in a joint family and you are assuming that you are the number 3 son in the family, in that case, you are not employed. You are educated. You are in the you are studying now. So in that case, entire arrangements in your family, right from the cooking of the menu, everything will be decided by the person who is earning. Other persons cannot have any other sayings, right? This was scenario from 15th August 1947 to 1/7/2017. So the person who earns more had the benefit of wonderful development. You can take, for example, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and certain places of Andhra Pradesh, etc., where you will find wonderful roads. But if you go to the backward areas like Mizoram, Tripura, Nagaland, you may not see the roads. So there was no balanced growth in the country. There was no balanced growth in the country, and that is why now the shift has been changed to consumption oriented. அதை போட்டு எடுத்த விடல இந்த சாவி எடுத்து உள்ள வச்சுக்கோ. So it is wonderful definition of section 22. ABC has a taxable turnover of 15 lakhs. It also executes government contracts for 6 lakhs. Should ABC get GST registration? The turnover crosses 20 lakhs. Therefore, they will have to definitely get the registration. because when they get government contract, the TDS will be there. When the TDS is there, they will have to have registration. Therefore, the registration is compulsory. The turnover, what they say is 40 lakhs for the goods and 20 lakhs for services. It includes taxable supply, exempt supply, export supplies, nil supplies, then supplies on behalf of principal. It will not include supplies on reverse charge, supplies under job work. Now you will have to understand one by one. What is taxable supply? When the rate of tax is specified in the schedule and the rate is fixed for the commodity or service, then you will have to pay tax and to get the service or goods. In such a case, it is a taxable service. Exempt service or the necessities like rice, wheat, etc. are exempted when it is an agriculture product. That means when there is no trademark registered to the rice, it is not liable to be taxed. Assuming I am selling Taj Mahal brand Basmati rice. If I am selling Taj Mahal brand Basmati rice, it is taxable at 5%. Therefore, wonderfully they have defined whenever it is an agriculture product, it is exempted under the Act. Whenever it is a traded commodity, it is liable for taxation. Then export supplies. What is export? Whenever you are sending goods outside the country, or you are effecting sale to SEZ, or you are effecting sale to SEZ developer, in all these cases, the turnover will be added to arrive at the gross turnover of 40 lakhs. Originally it was 20 lakhs, last year it was increased to 40 lakhs. The exclusion under the what is nil supplies? Everyone will say the hospital service are not taxable. That is not correct. Hospital services, even blood bank, even the stay in the hospital are liable to be taxed, and service code is already allotted. They are not taxed because a notification was given before the introduction of GST. Based on the notification, all the services done by the hospital services are exempted except the cosmetic surgery done by the office hospital is liable to be taxed. All other services are not liable to be taxed. So the nil supplies here are taxable supplies, and they are not taxed because of a notification given by the central government. And supplies on behalf of principal. This is a transaction of agent and principal. Some agent may be in the different state, principal may be in different state. Say for example, I am in Chennai, I am consigning goods to my agent in Bangalore. So it is in Karnataka state. There he will effect registration in my name and do the transaction for me in as an agent in that place. So that turnover will have to be added to arrive at the total value of turnover of 40 lakhs or 20 lakhs as the case may be. The reverse charge, where what is reverse charge? There are two sections, 9.3 and 9.4. 9.4 is temporarily suspended except for civil work, it is liable to be taxed. 9.3, yeah, it is a payment of freight, payment of that is lawyer fees, then sponsorship, then director sitting fees, etc. are available till now. For that, you will have to pay tax. Say for example, I am paying suppose 1 lakh rupee for an advocate to do my work. In that case, I will have to pay tax on 1 lakh. Then I will take the tax as a input tax credit in the next month. This month I will make the payment. Next month it will be taken as my input tax credit. But it should be included in the GST return. 3B and the GST are the 3B it should be included. Therefore, that turnover is not liable to be included. Then supplies under job work. What is supplies under job work? I am a principal. I engage a job worker in Pondicherry. I am sending the goods to Pondicherry, and where the Pondicherry they are manufacturing the goods. In that case, the person who receives the goods or that he is receiving my goods. He is not receiving his goods. So in that case, the goods what I have sent will not be included for arriving at the turnover. Wonderful definition. But the charges charged by the job worker will be liable to GST if it crosses 20 lakhs. So in that case, if he is charging GST, that turnover will be added. Only the supplies what I have made to him, the raw materials I have supplied to him, will not be taken as a basis for arriving at the turnover. And the very interesting under the GST is every day if you take 3 or 4 notifications will come. Out of that, 2 will be extension of time and 2 will be extension of time for particular period. Then once again it will be extended. So therefore, if you take from 1/7/2017 to 10/8/2020, there will be at least 4 to 5 notification per day which was given by the department. And there they have notified very important things. You have to read everything, then only you can identify. For example, when I am having only reverse charge mechanism to pay tax, I am an exempted dealer. My transaction is exempted transaction. I will have to take registration to pay only for reverse charge. That is exempted by 5 of 2017 notification dated 19/6/2017. Similarly, if I am dealing with the handicraft item, I need not get myself registered. So that exemption is coming from 32 of 2017 dated 15/9/2017. And if I am making the e-commerce supplies, I need not register. That notification is 65 of 2017 dated 15/11/2017. But wonderful definition now amended is whenever I use the e-portal is, for example, I am dealing with Amazon. I have this mouse and I am marketing this mouse. Then what I will do, I will give the rate of the mouse to Amazon. Similarly, those who are in need of the mouse will be contacting Amazon. So Amazon will place orders for me to me from the buyers. So I will they will ask me to raise an invoice and send the goods to Amazon. Then Amazon will go and deliver the goods to the buyer. At the time of buying, they will make the payment, or they will have the payment portal, and through that they would have paid. Whenever the Amazon is going to settle my account, it will take the entire amount and deduct their commission. For the entire amount, they will pay 1% tax to me. That 1% tax, it will be remitted to the government before 10th of next month. For example, today is 10/8. I am effecting a transaction with Amazon, and Amazon settles the account today. So they will deduct TCS, tax collected at source. Then what will happen? That money will be deposited before 10th of next month. When it is deposited 10th of next month, I can take the credit of the amount deposited by them for the month, for the August month return. Wonderful definition. But whereas under TDS Income Tax Act, if you take we have done bank audit and we have received payment. The TDS was affected by the bank, and the TDS will take 3 months to see in the 26 AS, and I can adjust only next September when I am filing the return for the current year. Unlike that, the GST, which is an indirect tax, directly explained everything. They say if you deduct TDS or TCS this month, it can be adjusted in the same month return. Wonderful definition. Your money is not locked. If, for example, if they deduct TDS when you are a paid employee, they deduct TDS this month. When can you get the TDS next year? July month, when you file the return, you can get the TDS. Till then, the money is locked in the government without any interest. So that case is not available under the GST. GST is wonderful act. Persons not liable to be registered under section 23. Goods or services not liable to be taxed. It is exempted by notification. Then in that case, if they register, they will file nil return. And the department should go through the nil return, unnecessarily time waste. Therefore, what they have said, whenever it is 100% exempt, you need not get yourself registered. Then our economy is agriculture-based economy. The agriculturists are playing vital role in manufacturing of food products. So in that case, if the agriculturists are asked to register under GST, how can they file the return? They will not file the return. And whatever they file also not liable to be taxed. So in that case, it is not necessary for the agriculturist to register for sale of that product. Wonderful definition. Because of this, the agriculturists are benefited to a larger extent because they don't need to have an accountant to file monthly return every month and to pay the tax. Under GST, if you make the money belatedly, you will have to pay late fees. Under 3B, 3B is one of the return where if you file the return belatedly, if it is a nil return, you will have to pay 20 rupees per day. If it is a taxable return, you will have to pay 50 rupees per day. So this is a wonderful definition. Therefore, the exempted dealers need not file the registration application. And the notified categories of persons. This is a buffer provision under the Act. Whenever they get some provision, they will add it to the notified persons. So notified persons will be amended every now and then. Hereafter in the budget, we will have to see whether there is any amendment to the notified categories of persons. What is interstate supply? It is a supply between two different states. Say for example, I am supplying from Chennai to Puducherry. Puducherry is a union territory. I am supplying from Chennai to Puducherry. There are two different states involved in this transaction. To effect the sale, I cannot be a composition dealer. Who is a composition dealer? Who pays lesser tax. He will not pay the rate of tax for the product or service. He will pay tax as per the given, that is 5% or 4%. What is the minimum tax? They cannot collect tax. They will have to pay from the pocket. So in that case, they cannot effect interstate output or interstate sale. They will have to effect only interstate input. Input means getting the goods inside the state. They can do that. They cannot make the interstate supply. And casual taxable person having business for a short term, temporary period, example, exhibition. I will give you a hypothetical example. I am a dealer of this paperweight. I am dealer of this paperweight. I want to market this paperweight in Tirupati, Andhra Pradesh. So I am participating in an exhibition there. When I am participating in the exhibition may not be for the whole year. It may be for a lesser period. Say I am going to participate for 30 days. In that case, what I will do, I will get a registration of a casual taxable person. I will take the registration. I will participate in the exhibition. Whatever stock I have received from the from my head office, I will stock I have dispatched from my head office, I will charge tax at the rate of the commodity as a stock transfer. The other state will take it as an input. Then the e-commerce operator, one who facilitates supply through e-platform. Easy example, day-to-day example, Uber and Ola, then your Amazon, more importantly your Swiggy. You are all that is placing orders with Swiggy to get sambar vada from Murugan Idli shop. Then you want bel puri from Saukar pet shop. Whatever you ask, they get they procure and give it to in your place. So they are having the e-platform, and based on the e-platform, they are meeting the requirement of the consignor, the requirement of the customer with the manufacturing product of the owner. In all these cases, the e-commerce operator will collect the goods along with the bill and hand over the bill to the person, get the money, and they take their commission. Then balance they will send it to the supplier. The supplier at the same time, whenever they effect a transaction, the e-commerce operator will deduct 1% tax and remit it to the account of supplier. The next month he will take the input in that account. Reverse charge mechanism. It is the tax paid by the recipient. In the erstwhile VAT or Sales Tax Act, there was a concept called purchase tax. Whenever you purchase from an unregistered dealer, you will have to pay tax on the purchases what you have effected. So that is the concept where the other person is unregistered dealer. The person who receives the goods will have to pay tax this month, then they can take credit next month. The easiest example is freight paid. Normally the freight, when they wanted to levy tax on the freight, you know, when the service tax was in force, there was a strike in all over India for a period of 1 month. Then they wanted to reintroduce that time also there was a strike by the lorry fleet owners. So based on that, what the service tax authority felt is the person who receives the services from the lorry persons will have to pay tax. That scenario is copied and pasted in the GST. So the recipient, when the tax paid by the recipient for the services taken will be taken as an input in the next month. What is input service distributor? I have an office in Chennai. In Chennai, I have only input. I have branches in Tirupati, Puducherry, Bangalore, then Telangana, then Karnataka, Kerala. I have in 5 different states. So I don't have input in the, that is, I have only input in the state of Tamil Nadu, and I have output in all other states. Based on the ratio of the output, say for example 5:4:3:2:1, that is the sales ratio of the various branches in other states. In that case, I will have to share the related input tax credit whatever received by the persons. I will have to take 2 registration. First of all, I will have to take normal registration. Then I will have to take a registration under the input service distributor. Then only I can share the input tax credit whatever I have received. Agent, one who acts on behalf of another. The condition is the agent, normally if it is a pure agent, he will not add profit on the whatever expenses he has made. He will collect or reimburse whatever he has spent. So he will get commission. That commission is liable for tax. The reimbursement of expenses by a pure agent is not liable to be taxed. Then compulsory registration. When there is a supply between 2 different states, then the registration is compulsory. Then if it is a casual taxable person making taxable supply, except a handicraft item, all other things are to be registered. So it is wonderful definition exemption by 32 of 2017. Person who required to pay tax under RCM. 9(3) RCM exempt from 5 of 2017. If I have taxable turnover and also RCM, I will have to take registration. But the RCM turnover will not be taken as the basis for arriving at the threshold limit. Persons who are required to pay tax under section 9(5). Section 9(5) is e-commerce operation. Whenever e-commerce operation is there, the assessee who is dealing with e-commerce operation will have to register. But Suppliers of services through e-commerce is exempt as per 65 of 2017. This is an old notification which was given. I will give you one easy example. One client came to me from one place. He said, "Sir, I am having a eat out in my place. So what is the turnover?" I was asking him. When he came to me, it was they said about 18 lakhs will be the turnover. But eat outs are not coming under goods, it is services. So when the services is 10 lakhs and above, you are liable to pay tax. I said, you are liable to pay tax, you will have to get yourself registered. Then I asked them, who are all purchasing from you? Is it end user or service provider? They said there are 2 or 3 service providers like Swiggy, etc. They collect from them. 2/3 of the turnover will be done by them, and 1/3 will be done at the place of business to the end user. So in that case, I said you will have to definitely register and file the return. If you are not filing the return, if once TCS is coming up, then the officer will come to your place and inspect you. So that was the case, and immediately they started registered. They registered and paid the tax accordingly. The person who is required to deduct TDS, who is a person who is required to deduct TDS? A government company or a company formed by the statute, whether central government or state government, or a society which is registered under Societies Act, will all come under the tax deducted at source. They can deduct tax at source when they pay a payment of beyond 2.5 lakhs in a single bill or purchase order. If it is done to the another unit of the same caliber, then they need not deduct TDS. For example, if I am filing monthly return for a cooperative society and I am charging them 20,000 rupees per month, in that case, annual fees will be 2.4 lakhs, and I will be charging for an annual return also. So in that case, they will definitely deduct TDS on me, and for various work, whatever they give, they will have to deduct one TDS and remit it to the department, GST department, which I will take it as input tax credit when I am filing the return. For example, I am having one automobile manufacturing company. I want to reduce the cost of manufacturing. What I am planning is, I am asking one technical person from Japan to visit Chennai and follow my production process for a period of 6 months. So if he does the work for 6 months, he will give suggestions so that I can minimize my cost of production. So whenever I engage a person like that, I will have to get him registered under GST as non-resident taxable person, and I will have to file return for them. Whatever fees I am paying, so I will have to pay tax along with the fees. Then he will pay the fees tax to the department. Then comes the agent who makes a taxable supply on behalf of other person. On behalf of the principal, if the agent is making taxable supply, he will have to definitely get himself registered. Then comes input service distributor. I have discussed this in the previous slide. Supplier through e-commerce liable to TCS. Wonderful definition. Say for example, I am the owner of Hot Chips. So Mr. X wants to purchase a tiffin from me, and he wants to have coffee from me. So whatever he orders to Swiggy, Swiggy will come and give the order to me. I will supply, and the Swiggy will take the goods and charge their fees, then collect the fees from the customer. Then they will make the payment to me according to the invoices what they have received. So by that time, if I am not a registered dealer, how can they deduct tax collected at source? That is why those persons who are liable for TCS will have to get themselves registered under the e-commerce operation. For example, I am the owner of Hot Chips. I have to register Hot Chips in the GST portal and pay tax accordingly. Whatever sales I have affected, I will pay taxes, and the tax collected by the Swiggy will be credited to me on 10th of next month. So when I make the payment of tax, it will go to the cash register. I will deduct the cash, that is tax portion. Then I will pay the balance of tax. Electronic commerce operator is Swiggy. When the Swiggy is there, they will have to register because they are going to collect tax. So therefore, they will have to register. Definitely, they will have to do. The third one is supplier of OIDAR services. Wonderful definition. Normally, if a family is outside the country, for example, in Australia, they will take credit in everything. For example, in Tamil Nadu, you are having a magazine called Kumudam. It is coming on Wednesday. What the person in Australia will say, I will read Kumudam before you get the hard copy. I will read the Kumudam on Tuesday itself. Now you will ask him how. He will say, I will download the Kumudam from the website and read. For downloading, they will have to pay some tax from money, and that money includes tax. The Australian government was the first government to tax the OIDAR services. OIDAR is where you pay tax for downloading the facts matters from the website. You know, our state, that is a wonderful poet, Mr. Bharadiyar. He said, what he said, you go to all the directions, 8 directions, and bring whatever is good for the culture. But our people, our tax people, will go outside the country, see the new tax provisions, and bring all the tax provisions to our country. So we are always paying more tax. Notified persons, to be notified, it will be done every year. You will have to update the notified persons under all the instances. You can register yourself as a regular dealer or as a compounding dealer. What is the difference? If a regular dealer can claim the taxes paid on the input with the output tax. For example, I am purchasing goods worth 10 lakhs from Mr. X. I am effecting sale of those goods to 12 lakhs to various customers. In that case, I would have paid tax on the 10 lakhs. I will keep it separately. Then whatever output tax on 12 lakhs, I will calculate. I will collect the 12 lakhs from the customer. I have already paid tax on 10 lakhs. I will adjust that. Balance alone, I will remit it to government. So the registered dealer will claim the taxes paid on the purchases and will pay the difference tax only. Who is a compounding dealer? A compounding dealer is a dealer whose total turnover is less than 1.5 crores. He can do interstate purchases, local purchases. He can do all types of purchases. He cannot collect tax. He cannot claim input tax credit. He cannot effect sale to other state. So all these conditions he will have to fulfill. He cannot collect tax. He will have to pay taxes from his pocket. So wonderful provision. The compounding dealer is normally the dealer in your household, that is near to your house. A small shop will be there. He will have everything what you want. He will give notebook. He will give chips. He will give milk. He will give bread, etc. So in that case, he need not prepare invoices every now and then. He can prepare one cash invoice per day, or he can make the invoices once in a week also. So which is better? It is always better. It should be a regular dealer. Then you can avail the benefit of tax. The tax portion is from 0 to 28. For example, I am dealing in air conditioner. Air conditioner is 28%. So when I am dealing in air conditioner, I cannot avoid paying tax on the purchases. Then that 28% will be a huge margin. My margin will be only 10% maximum. So what I will have to do, I will have to take registration as a regular dealer, then do it. Compounding dealer or dealer who are generally catering the needs of the households. They are a small shop available in the residential area where you get everything. So over period of time, the compounding dealer will perish because the tax what they pay will be a huge amount of loss for them. For getting registration, you will have to give following details. One is proof of business commencement or certificate of incorporation. If it is a company, you will get certificate of incorporation. If it is a partnership firm, you will get partnership deed. In that, the date of admission of the part. Based on that, you can know the date of commencement. Then address for the principal place of business. How can you get the address? You will have to see the rental agreement and you will have to verify the electricity meter reading card, because in the electricity meter reading card, the owner of the place will be given. So he should be the same person with whom you have entered into a rental agreement. And in that case, you will get the address for the principal place of business. Then identity proof. You can give Aadhaar card, driving license or passport. Aadhaar card is the #1 document which is to be given by the assessee who wants to get registration. Then PAN number. Why PAN number is important? Because your registration is based on the PAN number and your authentication is based on the Aadhaar number. Both are interlinked, therefore you will have to have that. Then authorization letter for authorizing a person to effect business on behalf of the owner of the business, or board resolution as the case may be. Then photo of the applicant. If he is a proprietor, photo of the proprietor, bank account of the proprietor, PAN number of the proprietor and business bank account you will have to give. Then comes email ID, mobile number of the owner of the business you will have to give. Here I want to make a simple suggestion. Whenever you are registering your business, if you are an employee, don't give your phone number or email ID to the registration. Why? Because the number should be the company owned number and the email should be company owned email. What the problem they will get is, if you are leaving the job, the notice will come to you. You will not answer. Automatically orders will be passed against the proprietor or owner of the business. Therefore, my sincere suggestion, the company's email ID, the company's phone number alone to be used. You cannot use any other number here. If by chance you have taken a registration based on the accountant number, then when he is leaving the job, you take the SIM card and the email ID. You pay for that and you can maintain that on later day. When I started my practice in 88, when I want to have any registration under the indirect tax, for every registration, I love to spend at least 10 days. I will file the application, then I will go and visit the place. Then after that, they will call for inspection. Then they will have to visit the place. Then they will take a statement. They will take a statement from the landlord. Based on that, they will allot the number. This was the cumbersome procedure earlier. Now it is very easy. You will have to give your PAN number, then mobile number, email address, the state in which you are doing business. You will have to give the first 4 in REG1 Part A. That is the document, that is the part of the application. Part A will have only the details of PAN number, mobile number, state in which you are dealing and email address. So wonderful definition. If you give that, automatically they will upload the details in GSTN. Then they will allot you a temporary number. This temporary reference number will be used till you get your registration. Then comes the Part B. Part B will have the details of the owners of the business, the nature of business, the commodity dealt, the commodity, what are proposed to be dealt, the bank account details, the PAN card details, then Aadhaar card details, then the phone number, email ID, etc., 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 which relate to their business will be explained in Part B. So in the REG1 Part B, with all details, if I upload to GSTN, automatically it will go to the proper authority. The authority may be a central government officer, may be a state government officer. It is based on the allotment given by the server. It will go to the respective person. As soon as you upload your registration application, you will get an acknowledgement in REG2. Immediately you will get an acknowledgement. You will have to see the flow chart in the next slide. It will be very interesting. I have forwarded the REG1 Part B to the proper officer. Then proper officer will take 3 days time for issue of REG3, which is a document where he wants some clarification from me or from explanations from me, or sometimes photo may not be legible. He will give a notice to me and ask me to upload proper notice. I will have to upload proper notice within a period of 7 days from the receipt of the notice. Now you will ask me how the notice will come. It will come to your email. It will not be given in a hard copy. Wonderful definition is normally it will go and stand in the spam. You will have to open the spam every day. Then only you will know the notices received from the GST department will be lying there. Very interestingly, I have registered one place, a branch for a client. I have done this on the month of January. Then in March month, they asked me, sir, what happened to our application? I said, you check your spam folder. On the spam folder, on the day of application itself, they have allotted the branch certificate. Branch certificate was lying in the spam. Luckily for them, the number of mails were less. Therefore, they could trace and take back the registration certificate from the spam. And the wonderful definition here is, if the officer is not giving any notice within 3 working days, then you are a deemed registered dealer. Similarly, I am replying GSTR 4 within 7 days from the date of receipt of the notice. Officer keeps quiet for 7 days or 8 days. Then I am a registered dealer, deemed registered dealer. They cannot reject my application thereafter. So they will have to give the registration number. Presently, whenever you apply, immediately on the same day or next day, you will get some notification from the department whether to accept or reject. That the details for required for rejection. When I am applying, that is when I am replying in REG4, which is a reply for the notice given in REG03. If the reply is accepted by the officer, he will take 3 days for acceptance. He will give a registration certificate GSTR 06. And mind you, the certificate should be displayed in the place of business and number should be displayed separately in the place of business. If it is not displayed, if the officer visits your place, he can levy 25,000 each for 2 defects. So therefore, always it is reasonable to exhibit the certificate in the place. Now, I have given a reply on REG4. Officer is not accepting my reply. Then he will reject the application. That is not the end. I can once again go in for GSTR 1A with a different cell number and different email ID. I cannot use the same email ID or cell number. I can use different cell number or different email ID, and the procedure will come once again. I will have to go and apply GSTR 1, then GSTR 1B. Then after that, if everything goes fine, then the officer will give the number immediately. Wonderful definition now is your time is saved. You need not go behind the officer for any registration. You cannot meet any officer. Only thing is you will get the number if you are properly filing the details. So a wonderful definition and a wonderful amendment have been given by the officer. If the officer failed to take action within 3 days, then 3 working days, the application is admitted. Then similarly, if you give reply and it is not questioned within 7 days, then you are deemed to be a registered dealer. The casual taxable person. I said in the exhibition, I am participating in Tirupati to market this paperweight. Then in that case, that exhibition will be for 1 month. I can apply the registration to Andhra Pradesh with the allotment of shop in the exhibition. When I apply, they will give me a registration after requiring the probable turnover which I will effect. So for the probable turnover, I will have to pay the necessary tax as an advance tax for the casual and non-taxable person. But whatever I have paid, whenever I effect a sale, I can adjust that and the balance, if any, will be refunded to me. So wonderful provision. And mind you, the registration is valid only for 90 days a period. Then I can apply for extension of time. It is given only for next 90 days. So after that, the registration automatically will be cancelled. Mr. A, example, A is having business in Chennai. He wants to popularize his product in Andhra Pradesh by conducting exhibition. He has booked a hall for 30 days. He closes and comes back to Chennai. Should A register after 30 days? He will have to register on the first day of sale. Before that, he will have to register to get the goods from Chennai to Tirupati. He can register, and after closure of the exhibition, he can pay tax, adjust the advance tax paid. Balance, if any, he can pay, or balance, if the government is to be refunded, they will refund. I have got registration by giving the Indian Overseas Bank account number. After some time, Dena Bank comes to me. They say, I will give you more benefits. You come to my account, you can transfer your loan account to our Dena Bank. In that case, the GST registration was under the Indian Overseas Bank account. I will have to amend that. That is a non-core field. I can amend at any point of time. The non-core field I can amend. I can apply to that. After some time, say 1 or 2 days after that, if you see, it will be amended. For example, I am dealing in this paperweight. I want to deal in with this mouse. I can add this mouse. I can add at any point of time. Why? Because before effecting a transaction, I will have to add that. And if you go through the returns, there is a HSN summary for the output sales effected. Similarly, when you file annual return, you will have to give the HSN summary for input of goods and services. So for that, you will have to include the items which are all required in your transaction in the business. And for some amendment, you will have to get the sanction from the assessing authority. Change in the legal name. What is legal name? The name available in your PAN card. It is a legal name. You cannot change it. Why? Because your PAN number is based on that name. So if you want to change that, you will have to change your PAN card also, which is a cumbersome process. Normally, it will not be done. So in that case, if you are applying, the officer will have to give the consent for that. And the another one is address of principal place of business. Say I am in KK Nagar. I want to shift my office to Mount Road. Then I can take the Mount Road as a branch for some time. Then shift from Chennai, that is KK Nagar, to Mount Road. Otherwise, changing will be a big task. If I apply with the rental agreement of Mount Road, and the officer concerned will have to be take the application, scrutinize that. If it is fit, he may take it. But for that, I'll have to get an order from the officer. And if there is any change in the constitution of the business, if there is addition to the partnership, if there is a deletion to the partnership, if there is an amendment for the authorized representative, if there is an amendment for management committee, if there is an amendment for CEO or equivalent position, or if there is an amendment for director, I will have to inform the department so that the liability of that person will be ceases to effect from the date he is relieved from the business. The core field is business details, promoter, partner, principal place of business, and additional place of business. For all these things, your registration is based on the place where you deal. For example, I want to shift my office from KK Nagar to Puducherry. Puducherry is different state. KK Nagar is coming under Tamil Nadu. It is 33. The number will start with 33. And if it is in Puducherry, it will start with 35. So when I want to shift my office from Chennai to Puducherry, I will have to take a new registration there and shift it there. So for that, I need a sanction from the assessing authority for moving from this place to another place. Then business details. I am a chartered accountant in practice. If I want to have any other vocation as a, say, insolvency professional or any other vocation, I will have to include that in my registration certificate. Only if I include and if it is sanctioned by the authority, I will be able to do the justice in that work. Then there are two partners and one partner retires. What happened to the constitution of the business? It is not a partnership firm, it is a proprietor organization. So in that case, the registration will have to be made once again, and the business of the old partnership firm will be taken over by the available single partner. He will take over the business. So you will have to file ITC 02 to carry over the input tax credit if any. If you are a compounding dealer, you need not file ITC 02. You will have to file memorandum of understanding for taking over the business as a going concern. The non-core field will be goods and services, bank account, state-specific information. Say, for example, if you are dealing in rice, rice is exempted in the state of Tamil Nadu. And when you are dealing in rice, you are exempted from taxation. So if you are dealing some other product, say for handicraft items, which may be exempted in Tamil Nadu, may not be exempted in Andhra Pradesh. So state specific information, I will have to update every now and then. It is a non-core field. It can be amended any point of time and any number of times. Nobody will question that. I will have to do it before effecting a transaction for that product. When the person who has taken registration wants to discontinue the business, he can discontinue the business and he will have to file a application in GSTR 28. Then the officer will give show cause notice why the registration to be cancelled. Then I will have to answer that I have closed the business, and the reasons for closing is I don't have any further orders. Therefore, I am surrendering the certificate. If such being the case, the officer will grant the cancellation, provided I file GSTR 10. Wonderful document. Final return, it is called as a final return. I will have to file within 90 days from the closure date. If I file like that, then the registration will be struck down from the GST portal. If I get another registration, the number will be, the vertical will be changed from 1 to 2. Change in constitution of business, I have explained, and no longer required to be registered under section 22 or section 24. The section 22 or section 24 may give exemption to a particular handicraft item or any item which needs the benefit of growth. So in that case, if such being the case, I need not register, I can surrender my cancellation or I can submit the cancellation application. The department may also cancel the registration. Registered person, if he is not filing the return for 6 continuous periods, if he is a compounding dealer, 3 continuous period, if he has not filed, then in that case, the number will be struck down from the list by the officer. That means you will have to pay the liability till the end date. Then you will have to file GSTR 10. If you are not filing GSTR 10, the number will not be struck down. And whenever you come and rectify the backlog, you will have to pay late fee for not filing 3B return. Registered person other than covered under section 10 has not furnished return for a period of 6 months. That is composition deal. A person who has taken registration voluntary has not commenced the business within 6 months. I have taken a registration on 1/1/2020. Now we are in 10/8/2020. I am filing nil return. I am not making expenses also. In that case, the officer can cancel my registration. And if I have got registration by willful fraud, willful misstatement, suppression, etc., for that reason, they can cancel my registration. And all pending liabilities to be settled when the registration is cancelled. If the number is cancelled, you cannot say that I am relieved, I need not pay anything now. You will have to pay till the closure or till the cancellation date, you will have to pay, close the registration. Now they have amended the section wherever the revocation, that is cancellation order is, you can apply and cancel the cancellation order. If you have not done earlier, they have given time now for all the registration which were cancelled suo motu by officer, and you can give the reason why you have not cancelled or why you want the registration number to be continued. Based on that, they will grant the certificate once again to you. You can apply for the cancellation of cancellation order within 30 days from the date of service of the cancellation order. If you are not filing within 30 days, you are not eligible to claim cancellation order. You will have to go to court of law. You need not go to court of law. For example, I have not filed 6 months return. They have cancelled the registration. What I will have to do? I will have to file the 6 months return now. Then I will have to give the proof within 30 days to the officer stating that I have filed all the returns. So with I should have filed the returns with late fee or interest. Whatever I have paid, I will prove, give it as a proof. Then officer sees that and he can cancel the cancellation order. That is called as revocation of cancellation order. This is the reply of, that is the replica of what I have explained. You will have to file REG 0148 with your mobile number, email ID, PAN number, and the state in which you are applying. Then based on that, they will give you application form. You will have to fill the entire application form with the constitution of the business, nature of business, bank account details, photograph, then the Aadhaar number, then PAN number, then PAN number of the individual, if it is a different constitution, the bank account of individual, the bank account of the firm. You will have to give all these details and upload the application. Whenever the application is properly done, the number will be allotted within 3 days by the department. REG2 is an acknowledgement. REG3 is a clarification required by the officer. The reply is in REG4, and the reply, if it is not accepted, REG5 will be issued. That is rejection of the application. If it is accepted, REG 06 will be issued. Tax deductor, tax collector, e-commerce operator or tax collector, government companies and companies formed by Act of Parliament. Our CA Institute is formed by Act of Parliament. Therefore, it is to be themselves registered under the GST Act. They will have to file in GSTR 07. When they file in GSTR 07, they will be allotted 06 certification. Then if they want to cancel the registration, they will apply GSTR 08. Officer will go through and accept if it is correct. The tax deductor and tax collector will have to register in addition to their regular registration of GST. Non-resident cash, that is casual trader, non-resident taxable person will have to file in GSTR 09 with the caution deposit or along with the deposit. Then they will be allotted 06. It is for the period of 90 days. If they want extension, they will have to file GSTR 10, which the officer may or may not accept or extend the time. So 90 days is originally given. They can give another 90 days. Beyond that, it cannot be continued. The order where you download and pay for that. You are reading many books in the internet also. You are downloading the books and reading. For that, you will be paying some money. When you pay money, that money is inclusive of tax. It should be remitted to the department. There, order people have said, sir, I don't have branch in that area. Then the GST government said, GST department said, you all appoint an authorized representative who will collect money and pay tax to us. Or if there is no authorized representative, you appoint one person so that we can get our taxation. When the officer finds that the business was running for a longer period and the registration was not taken, he will give a temporary number. Then based on that, I will have to submit all the details. Then they will give GSTR 6. That is the original application. Based on that, I can proceed further. This is a wonderful definition. Under the S2L Act, if I am supplying to an embassy, it is under CST, I will have to supply. If I supply from Chennai to an embassy, US embassy, then they will have to give one form called Form JJ. Normally, they will not give any form. So what happened? I will have to wait for 1 or 2 years. Then the officer will make assessment at a higher rate. I will have to make the payment. Now it is very simple. They will have to apply in GSTR 12. They will be allotted one unique identification number in GSTR 6. They will report their expenses. They will not report their incomes. They will report their expenses by 28th of next month. So whatever I have recorded will be cross-verified by the server. Then if it is correct, there is no problem at my end. No forms under the GST. When I want to amend the registration, I will apply in GSTR REGN 13. The officer will give GSTR REGN 14. He will issue order in that. When there is a show cause notice for cancellation, it will be in REGN 16. I will have to reply to show cause notice in REG 17. If the officer is not accepting my reply, then he will confirm it in REG GSTR REG 18. Then if the officer accepts whatever I reply, he will drop the show cause notice in GSTR REG 19 and restore my registration. Whenever the department cancels the registration suo motu, I will have to apply in GSTR REG 20. I will have to apply in REG 20. Then show cause notice for 20 will be issued in 22. I will reply to the show cause in 23. The officer will cancel the cancellation order in REG 21. That means when he is issuing 21, I am getting back my registration once again. I told you those assessees who were assessees under the S12 that service tax, a central excise were allotted GST or GST number on migration. The provisional registration is given in GST REG 25. For that, I would have applied in 24. If I have applied in 24, that number given on a provisional basis will become confirmed number. If I want to cancel the registration given to me on migration, I will have to apply for GSTR REG 26. Then show cause notice will be issued in 27. After that, the number will be cancelled in 28. REG 28 is the cancellation application form. And many of us think that only the S2I Act has the verification. But wonderfully designed by the department, the current act is also having verification. The officer will have to give the number, then physically verify the place of business, then report in GSTR REG 29 when they have some doubts on the transactions affected by the assessee. So now I am going into the website. So when I want to apply for the registration, I will go to the home page. Then the new registration, which is in the bottom, I will click. When I click the new registration, it will ask me, you want a new registration or temporary reference number, if any, I will have to give. I will have to select taxpayer, tax deductor, tax collector, GST practitioner, non-resident taxable person, United Nations body, consulate of embassy of foreign country, other notified person, non-resident online service provider. It is called as OIDAR services. Then permanent account number I will have to give. Normally, if I am a taxpayer, I click this and I will give my PAN number. So my registration will be decided based on my PAN number. Then the other things very important. I am a taxpayer, the state under which I am going to do business, district, the place where I am doing the business, and legal name of the business. For the proprietor, the legal name is PAN name. Trade name will be different. The legal name, for example, if I am applying as a proprietor, my PAN number will be based on the my name Jagannathan Murali. So Murali will be the fifth letter. M will be the fifth letter in my PAN number. So that is why they have asked for the legal name. Then I will have to give the permanent account number followed by email address, then mobile number. Then I will have to fill in the number, that is the digit to check whether I have done correctly. Then I will have to say proceed. If I say proceed, then the number will be allotted, which is a TRN number, temporary registration number. So when I apply for registration, I will get a following scheme like this. Wherever I have registration, those things will be mentioned by the department. Now you will have to understand one point. If I am a composition dealer in one registration, I cannot take regular registration. Therefore, in the registration, you see type of registration, composition. So you cannot have any other thing other than a composition. registration. Then I can say proceed. Then one OTP will be given in the phone number and also in the email OTP. The email OTP both will come simultaneously. I will have to fill in and confirm that I have used both cell phone and email. If I am confirming like that, the proceed will be given. Then the TRN, temporary registration number, reference number, temporary reference number will be generated. And it will now, if I say proceed, it will give part B. I will take the mobile OTP number, then I will click it. Then I will get the application for new registration. The expiry date will also be there. I will have to fill up all the details. For example, the business details, promoters details, authorized signatory details, authorized representative details, principal place of business, additional place of business, goods and services, bank account, state specific information. All these things I will have to give along with the verification. So when I give all these details, if I want to be a composition dealer, I will have to say whether I am a manufacturer or I am a supplier making supply referred to in clause B of paragraph 6 of second schedule, or any other supplier eligible for composition dealing. Then I will have to certify that I hereby aforesaid business shall abide by the conditions and restrictions specified in the Act. What are all the conditions for composition dealer? They cannot collect tax, they cannot claim input tax credit, and they cannot affect interstate sales. They can do other things, and the tax will be paid from their pocket. So it will be a composition levy. They will pay lesser amount of tax, but whatever tax they have paid on their purchase will be reported in 4A. When the GSTR 1 is filed by the supplier, it will be reported in 4A. Why this check is given? Because for the registration under composition, the maximum turnover can be 1.5 crores. If I am purchasing for 7 crores and I am effecting 1 crore as sales, officer will not accept. He will give notice to me. Okay. Then the declaration for a casual person. When I am a casual person and the date for which I have effect the transaction, I will have to give the turnover and net tax liability. Then I will have to generate challan and pay the advance tax. And the advance tax will be refunded when I complete the registration or when I can submit the cancellation, and when I go for assessment, the advance will be adjusted. So reason for threshold limit, I can give the reason like the crossing of threshold limit, 40 lakhs I have reached. Interstate supply, I want to do interstate supply, so I want to go in for regular registration. Liability to pay as a recipient of goods or services, or transfer of succession of business. Because if a business is taken over by the other person as a going concern, then they will have to register. The death of the proprietor, demerger, change in constitution, merger amalgamation, e-commerce operator, selling through e-commerce portal, voluntary basis, input service distributor, supplies on behalf of the other taxable person, agent transaction, SEZ unit, SEZ developer, others. You kindly note, the SEZ developer and SEZ unit should get a different number other than the regular number. The regular number will be a registered dealer. The SEZ should have a separate number as per the SEZ Act. Then I will have to fill the type of registration number. If I have the India registration already, then I will have to upload the notification. I will have to upload the JPF format, that is JPEG format or PDF format of the documents which I am giving as a proof. When I am an SEZ unit, I will have to say, are you applying for SEZ unit? I will have to say yes. Are you applying for registration as a SEZ developer? If I am a developer, I will have to say yes. Otherwise, I will have to say no. Select name of SEZ, approval order number. It will be given by customs. You will have to take it from the customs record. Approval date of order, designation of approving authority. The SEZ authority will give the certificate. Details to be filled by the SEZ developer. Developer should fill in where he is going to develop. Who is the developer? This definition was not available in the erstwhile VAT Act. So what happened? The sale affected to SEZ developer is not a sale affected to SEZ unit. Therefore, the zero rated will not come in the erstwhile VAT Act. Now, in the GST Act, they have amended and they have brought in SEZ developer, SEZ unit, everything they have brought in. Therefore, there is no lesser confusion. Confusions are minimized to a larger extent. And basically, GST Act is a compliance-oriented act. If you are complying with that, you can do your business in a nice way. If you are not complying, it will doom your business. So the application type, your business details you will have to give, then partners details, authorized signatory, you will have to click and give the authorized representative, principal place of business, goods and services, whatever you are going to deal, bank account of the company and individuals, and state specific information. If there is any handicraft item which are exempted in the state, you will have to give. If you fill all these things, 24% of your profile will be updated. Then comes the details of your business. Whatever you are going to do, you will have to give whatever the details of commissioner rate, etc. They will fill up, and you will have to give all the details required for the state jurisdiction. Then you will have to give the commodity what you are going to do. Here they have given pan masala, but pan masala is a restricted item, and all goods like tobacco and manufactured tobacco substitute. The tobacco will have a cess, compensatory cess, which is more than the value of tax. The tax is 28%, cess will be 72%. Wonderful definition. The tobacco, I have seen the tobacco recently for a client, and there are about more than 150 entries in tobacco alone. Tobacco, chewing tobacco, tobacco for cigarette, etc. Everything is there, and every rate is different. You will have to go through one by one. Goods and service network. Apply application type, new registration. Then you due date for completion, due the last modified profile. You will have to give all the details and apply for the verification. Members of the organization. If the proprietor, it can be filled in the first line itself. If it is a partner, you'll have to fill in the next place. Of director, you'll have to give in the next place. The personal details you'll have to fill in. Email ID and mobile number should not be repeated. Wonderful. If you have three partners. The three partners should not have the same email ID or same cell number. It should be different. The company's email ID, cell number should be different. The officers, that is the partners' email ID and mobile number should be different. Then comes the designated and developed goods and service network. If you will have to give the address, based on the address, the place of business, place of associate will be decided. Then you will have to upload the necessary format of your rental agreement, information about the company, photograph, etc. After filling the proprietor, you will have to fill the authorized representative or authorized signatory. There is no authorized signatory, you can mention that, and the personal information of the authorized signatory should have been completed by this time. Photograph is necessary. If you upload the photograph, details of the authorized representative, you will have to give the bank account, PAN number of the authorized representative, other Aadhaar card of the authorized representative, photograph of the authorized representative. You will have to give everything, and he is also taken as a party to the business. Then you will have to fill up all the other details, where the address and other things. If you fill everything, it will go like this. Normally, what I have explained in the first scheme itself covers everything. Now it is a repetition of what I have said earlier. Then the important thing is HSM code. You will have to give the commodity in which you are going to trade. So you will have to understand one important point. If your turnover is between 1.5 crores, 0 to 1.5 crores, you need not mention your GSTN number. If it is between 1.5 to 5 crores, you will have to mention first 2 digits. If it is beyond 5 crores, you will have to give other 4 digits, first 4 digits of your GSTN number. Then details of service offered by the business. You will have to specify the details. Then whatever a service classification code you will have to mention. Then apply for that. Current account number to be added after obtaining the registration number. Because the savings bank account alone can be started immediately. You can get the number, then add the current account number. Then employee code, professional tax and professional tax registration certificate, if any, you will have to upload that. If you upload everything, you are 100%, you are finalized. Then you can file with your digital signature or with your EVC. EVC is based on your Aadhaar card. Then you will get OTP in the phone number which is linked to your Aadhaar card. Then you can use the OTP and file it. You can also register the digital signature, then file with the digital signature. The digital signature you will have to register first, then you will have to proceed further. So how you are going to select, you will have to give either a digital signature or with the EVC. Then submit with e-signature. If you submit with NSDL or e-signature, and you can give continue. Then submit OTP, whatever you have received, verify other OTP. You can give that OTP and submit. Then the REG2 will be generated. REG2 will give you the registration application, acknowledgement for the application. Then the success. Thank you for submission. Then it will take 3 days for the officer to grant the number. They will give AIR number immediately. Then you can track the application with the AIR number. Normally it will be given within 3 days. There is any notice required, the GST REG3 will be issued by the officer, proper officer. Then proper officer, you will have to reply to him in REG04. It should be done within 7 days from the receipt of the REG3. And I have given some questions. Normally when you go for any meeting, first you should give questions. Then only the audience will give more questions. So first question is ABC College Trust is rendering education service. Their annual fees collection is 50 lakhs. However, they make an income 1 lakh through sale of old computer, lab equipments, etc. Is registration required? The 50 lakhs limit is they have already crossed the limit. The education is a service, so 20 lakhs is the basic limit. When they have 50 lakhs, they will have to get themselves registered. For this 1 lakh, what they can do, they can get registration as a casual trader and do the business and close the registration. That is very reasonable because it will be done only for a period of 90 days. Otherwise, they have to file return declaring every month nil return. Then Mr. Dedicated is rendering advertising services to the tune of 15 lakhs. He has registered with service tax. Should he get registered under GST? Under service tax, the basic limit was only 10 lakhs. Therefore, he has registered. Now his services are only 15 lakhs. So whether he needs to be registered or not, if he is doing regular business, he should get himself registered, because then only he will be competitive in the market. Mr. Pleasure is an insurance agent and he receives income only from commission which he earns with aggregate rupees 23 lakhs. Discuss his liability to register under definition. I have told you reverse charge. For the agent's commission, the insurance company will pay tax. Therefore, in this case, Mr. Pleasure need not get himself registered. Why? Because whatever he has earned is only tax paid income. So he need not get himself registered. Then another question. Mr. Hightech. Miss Hightech is rendering online tuitions through learnathome.com. She gets her students through this website and the payment is made to her on the basis of number of classes taken on the website. Should she register under GST? Her annual payment is 12 lakh. Will your answer differ if payments are directly credited to her bank account by the respective student? First instance, the web is a criterion. Here, the person is taking tuition in the e-commerce portal. When it is in e-commerce portal, she will have to get herself registered under the GST Act. So, in the first instance, when she collects money through the portal for the classes taken in the sessions, he will have to definitely pay tax on the amount received. Otherwise, if the amount is credited by the student directly to her account, in that case, she need not get himself registered under the GST Act. So thank you very much for the patient hearing. I have another 4 minutes time. If there is any questions, I will answer the questions. There is one question. How many HSN codes can be allowed? You can add any number of HSN code. At a single time, you will have to have five items. Then you can add at any number of items. Sir, a trader registered based on a turnover, he also shows rental income, commercial rent in his computation income. Separate registration is required, sir, for rental services. You need not have separate registration, sir. You can include the rental income also in the regular business income and pay tax. You need not have second registration. Some of them doing news channel and cooking class through YouTube. How to treat this, sir? It's a free channel. It is a free channel. There is no issue. But if you are paid accordingly for the classes taken through e-commerce portal, you will have to definitely get yourself registered. I think that is the questions available. What I can do, I can unmute, that is unmute everybody. If you have any question, you can ask me.
Camera, laptop, எல்லாமே இருக்கும். Processor, battery, armor, double dual SIM மாதிரி அது. जी बताओ जी.
Sir, you can make me the host, sir. Murali sir.
जी सर थोड़ा बात करो.
నన్ను పిలుస్తాను లేదు
Shankarnarayan sir.
Yes sir, make me the host, sir.
Yes
Okay,
sir.
कोई टेंशन नहीं. मैं कल बात करेंगे अजय सर को. बात करने के लिए फिर मैंने अपडेट करेंगे. हाँ. Okay, okay.
You are now host, sir.
Yes sir. Thank you sir. Thank you for that enriching presentation. Now on to the participant delegates. Please, you may ask your questions either through chat or you can raise your hand so that I can unmute you. The chat is now made visible to all, so you can chat with the speaker or you can raise your hand, I can unmute you. Okay, I guess there are no questions, sir. Yes, sir, you can now talk, sir. Sorry, sir. Murali, sir.
Yes, sir. If there is no question, I assume that they have understood everything. And if there is any question, they can can make the question tomorrow and send it to me. I will answer all the questions,
Sure,
whatever they raise.
Done, sir. I think since there are no questions coming, we will wind up the session. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks
Thank
for making yourself available for this session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all delegates. We will meet on a session for tomorrow. I think Ganesh Prabhu will handle tomorrow's session. You will get the email details as it was today during the day. Thank you.